figure out a day they could actually get it. If they couldn't play today, what day they could actually use. And of course, Clemson announced earlier that would be made up on May 11th.
Right.
So here at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. So they're going to try to play tomorrow in Greenville. So Greenville will start off the series this year. Normally it's the second game, but because of the weather and Mother Nature, it's going to be the first game, excuse me. But let's hope the rain holds off tomorrow. I think that's the number one thing because it's supposed to be. They're calling for about a 50% chance of rain tomorrow in Greenville. So let's hope they can get that in.
When something like this happens, how does that actually affect the teams? I mean, I guess it varies from team to team, but in reality, I mean, this series is very important, but having it only set up for 2 games, does that really, you think, affect their psyche?
No, I don't think so. The thing about baseball, and it doesn't matter if it's Carolina, Clemson, or anybody, it's all about the pitching, right? And so if you don't affect your starting pitching if you don't play, because you're still going to play 2 weekend games. So you pretty much will slide your most likely your Friday and Saturday guy into the Saturday, Sunday roles, just unless, you're worried about maybe how that Sunday guy would be used as far as starting conference play next week. That could play a role into it. Maybe they start the third guy because it's a Sunday. It all depends. But for the most part, I don't think it definitely won't bother tomorrow's game with pitching. I know Monty Lee said today they're going to start Davis Sharp tomorrow, just like it would be game 1 tonight. So, and I'm sure South Carolina's probably going to go the same way. We'll see. Maybe affects Sunday more than it affects Saturday, in my opinion. That, if I had to guess.
Is there word on who's going to start on Saturday? Yeah, on Sunday for Clemson. Is he going to go with Clark, or is he going to go a different route?
That's a good question. Monty also said today that if I had to guess, I think he's going to go with, just going off what he said today, that if he had to tomorrow, he was going to pitch Sharp, obviously, and then if they could, they may throw Matt Clark out there to see if he's going to, maybe if they need to use him, they will. He said, and then that'll tell us what they're going to do on Sunday. I would say there's a good chance you could see the freshman Ty Olenchuk, who's from Irmo down there, pitching in Sunday's game, which is what he was planning to do anyway, that they released yesterday. So we'll see. I think it's all going to be based on how Davis Sharp does out of the gate tomorrow, and if they use Matt Clark or not to come in and close the game like they did last week. Clemson ultimately wants to use Sharp-Clark combo on Friday nights. That's kind of what they want to do if they can. So, they did come out because, Caden Grice struggled last week in the first game, so they changed things up, and we're going to put Clark to start the Saturday game in Greenville. But now weather has changed that, so now they're going to kind of play it by ear.
Well, with that, though, I mean, this Clemson team is not exactly at full force. I mean, from what I've read, Kier Meredith is possibly not going to be available. Keyshawn Askew is also out. Same thing goes with Adam Hackenberg. I mean, there's a good side to that, though, where guys that were going to play behind them are getting some playing time.
Right. Well, first of all, French is a guy who's in for Hackenberg, and he's Jonathan French, and he's played well. I mean, he played really good last week, both at the plate where he had 2 home runs. He's got more power than Hackenberg, so he's more of a power guy. But also, he had some really good throws. Caught one guy stealing, the fastest guy for Cincinnati, Santiago, caught him stealing third, threw him out there in a crucial inning before Clemson. That was on Friday when it was just a 1-0 game at the time. And then he threw out another runner on Saturday with a nice throw down the line that at second base, that was like picture perfect. What you teach young people how to play the role of catcher and where to throw the baseball. I mean, it was like, they should use it for, what you're supposed to do in these videos, so he actually kind of, I think, surprised some people. So not surprising the Clemson coaches. I think the Clemson coaches knew what they had in him, but he looked really good. So that's a guy who I think benefited from the extra reps he's been getting with Hackenberg, been out since, even when practice started. So he's the guy that's benefited the most. But yeah, those other guys too. And look, Clemson beat a Cincinnati team that last year won their conference and played well in the NCAA tournament the year before that.
Right.
So that was a pretty good series win to sweep them and then to like really dominate them in the first two games at the as far as pitching goes. So we'll see how that translates against a very good South Carolina team that seems to be just tearing the leather off the baseball right now.
Gamecocks are doing a lot hitting the long ball. Wes Clark had I think two homers the other day against Winthrop. So no problems.
That's what Wes Clark does, right?
Yeah, he just smacks the ball around. So I got to ask you though a little bit about spring practice. One of the, I guess it's the first time that Dabo Swinney's talked with the media. He said, typical stuff that you would expect from Coach Swinney, but he did talk a little bit about the matchup with Ohio State and just basically said, hey, we got our butts kicked. We got our butts kicked on the offensive line. And he said that there wasn't really a lot of backup to change guys in and out. Oh man, that if you're on the offensive line this year, that kind of stings a little bit.
Well, and maybe that's what he's doing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Excuse me. I think maybe he's trying to motivate those guys because they did get their butts kicked, not just on the offensive side, but they got their butts kicked on the defensive side too. We heard James Kowski and also Nolan Turner talk to us after practice, and they both talked about how embarrassed they were for the way they played on defense and how they just got, Skowski, he said they just got their butts kicked. And the number one rule in football is not to get your butt kicked, not to be physically outmanned. And
yeah,
they were.
That's football 101. Yeah.
Yeah. That's football 101. And so, so I think Dabo, that's kind of maybe the message he's sending to these guys. And he's definitely challenging the offensive line because they had no depth last year on the offensive line. That was obvious. And it showed during the course of the season. Like there was a major drop off if one of the starters went out. With the exception of Walker Parks, who I think is going to be an outstanding tackle and could be your starting left tackle next year at Clemson. So, but other than that, they really had a drop off if anybody else was taken out. Remember the Notre Dame game, and they lose Matt Bockhorst. He goes out early in the second quarter, and from there, Clemson couldn't run the football at all. Right. And that was very painfully obvious in that game. And so, it's going to be interesting because they got some holes to fill on that offensive line. I mentioned left tackle is one with Jackson Carman going. I like Jordan McFadden though, and I like Walker Parks. Those two guys I think are going to be the starting left or right tackle. Just depends on who wins that left tackle job, right? But I think you're fine either way there because I thought Jordan McFadden played outstanding last year at right tackle. So I think they're fine there. But the big question is at center, where they're small with Mason Trotter. He's really not physically where he needs to be a starting center in major college football. He's 6'2", 280 pounds. That's just too small in today's college football.
Right.
And then Hunter Rayburn, he really hasn't lived up to expectations just yet. Now, granted, he hasn't had an opportunity to, but what are you going to get out of him? Is he ready? Or does, the freshman Ryan Linthicum, the number one rated center coming out of high school this year, how does he do in spring practice? Does he come in and really get things going? But, do you really count on a true freshman to start at center? The last time it happened at Clemson was in 2009 with, 2009 with Pillion's own Dalton Freeman. So it hasn't happened since. And of course, Dalton came in, he started halfway through the season. So it's not something that happens too often. And so I would say the number one concern for Clemson right now is getting something fixed at center. That's what they're probably going to be working on this summer, because if your center position is not good, ask Florida State what happens if you're not very strong at center.
By the way, breaking news, Alabama notches another notch there for their recruiting class. They get Ty Simpson, the 5-star quarterback, elects to go to the Tide. So there you go.
Yeah, imagine that, right?
Imagine that. Just another 5-star guy playing for Alabama. That's just kind of what happens. But I have to ask you though about Justin Foster leaving the program. He didn't play last year, but I if you're thinking coming into this year that depth was going to be something that they would have, but that kind of takes away a little bit from that defensive line.
It takes away a little bit. I mean, granted, now he didn't play last year, so when you look at the overall scheme of things, you're still fine. I think from that standpoint, I think what they were hoping to get back, though, is they were going to get back an all ACC caliber defensive end back, because you go back to 2019, and Foster had a great season in 2019, finished second on the team in tackles for a loss, second on the team in sacks. So and you go back and look at that Ohio State game in the Fiesta Bowl. He played outstanding in that game. So yes, they're going to miss him from a standpoint of they were hoping to have some experience depth there.
Right.
But there's still so much talent. They're fine. You still got Justin Maskell there, KJ Henry. This guy named Xavier Thomas is back. And they got, of course, that guy named Miles Murphy, who was a freak last year as a true freshman, coming back. So they're still overall in good shape on the defensive line at defensive end. But it definitely would have helped having a guy like Justin Foster. I'm not going to say that doesn't hurt from that standpoint, because he was an outstanding football player. I thought had a chance to be drafted and play in the NFL one day. But I totally get why the kid doesn't want to continue on, because I'm sure that was a pretty good scare last year when, he had, for people who don't know, he's had asthma his entire life. It's always affected him. And then kind of got it under control a little bit as he got older. But then when he got COVID last summer, COVID really affected the asthma again and brought it back. And he had some issues bouncing back from it. And I can get why he doesn't want to risk that, because anybody knows when you play athletics and you have asthma, I mean,
it's tough.
It's hard. It's hard. And so, yeah, I mean, I can see where it'd be scary for him.
All right. Of course, Will Vanderbilt from the Clemson Insider joining us today, not participating at full contact in spring practice. There are some guys that are out because of surgeries, including, Xander's and a couple of other guys, but one
Taylor
of the more,
Spector.
yeah, and Spector, but KJ Henry, but one of the big names that's out, of course, is Justin Ross. He's able to practice, but no contact yet. That is, that's one of the things that we're going to be watching over the summer to see if he's going to get cleared to completely play, because that's a dynamic playmaker there that could lead that Clemson receiving corps.
Right, and don't want to get people to think he's not going to be able to play. I think this is the way Dabo and them treated Mike Williams too. And they just didn't want to. Remember, Mike Williams had the neck injury and missed the whole year back in 2015. When he came back in the spring of 2016, they really held him out. He did basically what Justin Ross is going to do. But Dabo basically seemed very certain that he's going to have Justin Ross in the fall. This was more just kind of like, don't need to chance it right now. Why do you need to mess with that? Let's let him get used to totally being back at practice and being in the meetings and individual drills. And he kind of was already doing that anyway during the regular season this past year. So that's not really going to change much. But, I think more he's going to meet with his doctors in Pittsburgh one more time. And I think that's just going to be precautionary just to see how things are going. And as soon as he's done with that meeting, it sounded like it was going to be just what I said there when Dabo was talking about it the other day. I think once that happens, he'll be totally cleared. But still, I think Clemson's just going to err on the side of caution and wait till they get back into fall camp in August before he actually takes that first hit. But it sounds like everything's good to go for Justin. It's just a matter of, when he'll be able to do that.
All right, well, we got to talk about Clemson basketball for a quick second. The Tigers have 3 games left, it looks like, on their schedule. If you're just judging it by records, Clemson should be, if they can take care of business in these 3 games, they may move into the 5, maybe the 6 seed realm right there, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're sitting right on that cusp, and if they can win these next 3 games, probably, you would think they're going to win the next 2, just hold serve at home. And then if they go to Syracuse and they're playing a Syracuse team who's on the bubble and can get a good, decent road win, that might do it. That might land them, regardless of what happens in the ACC tournament. Maybe that lands them in a number 5, number 6 seed role. So, yeah, I mean, they've played well right now. They've won, 4 straight. They've won 5 of their last 6 overall. Right. And they're playing good basketball, playing good defensive basketball more than anything. And that's the key with Clemson, obviously. And so they're in good position. I think they're definitely going to make the tournament. It's just a matter of where they're going to be seated. So, give Brownell credit for coming off another COVID pause. And this time he had his team ready to play. And they look, people will say, well, they beat a bad Wake Forest team. And it's true. But when you're coming off a COVID pause, you didn't know what to expect the other day. And that was a good win for Clemson. That's going to help their confidence going forward.
Well, and if you remember last season, they went up to Wake Forest and lost to a team that Danny Manning was coaching, that they were pretty much on their last leg anyway. I mean, I thought that would have been a game that would bite them, especially with the pause. But we'll see how that works out as we roll along here. All right. Well, Will, tell folks where they can find the information from you. I mean, you had some scoops over there. You had the coach. What was the
Thomas Austin?
No, the defensive coordinator that was at Vanderbilt.
Ted Roof.
Yeah, you had that story like a month ago before everybody else. So good stuff that you come up with there on the ClemsonInsider.com, right?
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, we try to break as many stories as we can, and we work hard doing it. And Thomas Austin obviously was one too, that he was coming back to Clemson from Georgia State. So yeah. And we try to do that as much as we can over there at the Clemson Insider. So, always come over to our website, theclemsoninsider.com. It's free. That's the best thing about it. And, we try to get all the breaking news that you can, as well as what's going on inside the programs for football, basketball, and baseball. And we cover softball as well and all the other sports as we can. So, go check us out. You can reach us on at Clemson Insider on Twitter. Also, you can find me at Steeler Will on Twitter. The Clemson Insider on Facebook. And of course I have my podcast with LeVon Kirkland. People can go and download that. We're talking all football 300 all the time with me and LeVon. It's just nothing but football. And so, we got our podcast over there now that I'm putting up actually right now as me and you are speaking. That'll be up here in a little bit. So people can go check that out here. All the stuff we had to talk about, spring practice and more.
All right. Well, hey man, thanks for joining us on the rundown today, buddy. We really appreciate it.
All right, man. Thanks so much, buddy. We'll talk to you later.
All right, there we go. Will Vandervoort from the Clemson Insider, a little Clemson information there. The stuff with Justin Ross, very interesting stuff there. They're kind of almost putting him in a bubble for spring practice, and that makes sense. So no baseball game today, baseball game tomorrow. I think this can actually help Clemson. What I mean by that is that you're playing for the 2-day set here. They're going to play again on May 11th. They can go with that Davis Sharp to Matt Clark combo there, where you go right-hander to left-hander, and Matt Clark coming out of the bullpen is just outstanding. Just kind of a guy that can change the pace a little bit, and you've had Davis Sharp out there throwing at you, and then all of a sudden you could change up. That game in Greenville tomorrow might be tough there for the Gamecocks. Now I don't know how it's going to work out on Sunday. But if South Carolina keeps hitting the ball like they are right now, it's not going to be these games could go heavy to the South Carolina Gamecocks. We'll see how that works out. This is always one of the best series of the season. Kind of cut short. They're going to make up that game on May 11th. When we come back, we're going to do who is the modern day quarterback you. We'll have that for you in just a moment. You're listening to The Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Tom, you're right about that. I haven't done linebackers yet. I'll probably do linebackers next week. The tight ends, oh man. You guys really want me to do tight ends? I don't know about all that. I'm not doing punters and kickers. Those aren't real football players.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not doing punters and kickers.
Wow, how dare you?
I'm not doing punters and kickers.
Can I say something?
I'm talking to the video folks right now. You want to say something to the video folks? Here, there you go. Let's see here. Go ahead and say something to me there.
Okay.
Hold on, wrong button. All right, let's go here.
Okay. So somebody suggested punter and kicker you?
Yeah.
Okay. See how you responded to that, how they're not real football players?
Yeah.
Okay. Then why do kickers determine the outcome of lots of football games?
I don't care.
Are you kidding me?
I honestly don't care. I don't care about kickers.
Wow, so you haven't seen the plays that they've made, the tackles they've made when it matters most.
I truly don't care. I mean, you're trying to get me to care about something I don't care about. That's great.
I would just like to say that I agree with the viewer that suggested that.
Yeah,
you should you should do a kicker you.
Well, we'll see. By the way, that is Mr. Savage College Football joining us over there. I don't have a camera set up for him. I need to get a camera set up for him. We may do that.
Oh, okay.
He's like I am. He's wearing a Hornets t-shirt today. Are you actually a Hornets fan?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as it's real.
I have been a Hornets fan for a long time, and it has been very painful. It's been very painful.
You weren't alive in the days of when the Hornets were actually good with like Muggsy Bogues and all those guys.
I know about Muggsy Bogues and Glenn Rice, but
Muggsy Bogues, Glenn Rice, and
they're
those guys. Yeah,
I've been just dealing with constant disappointment.
Well, they were the Bobcats for a while. They were terrible then too.
Yep,
they were a gong show.
They hold the record for the worst record in an NBA season with 9 wins.
They're pretty terrible. So there's that.
But we might make it to the playoffs this year with LaMelo Ball.
Tom says you don't know about the Bobcats. We're not going to roast my intern too bad, guys.
I know a little bit about it.
All
I'm
right.
18.
We have to go back on the radio now. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining me today. Who is the modern day quarterback you? Now, I have some folks that were somebody got into me with me on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. I enjoy Twitter back and forth, but the modern day quarterback you, this is the university that right now is kind of where the quarterbacks are coming from in the past 10 seasons. So basically 2010 to 2019, I went through and figured out where quarterbacks have been drafted from and how those quarterbacks did in the league. So same thing I've done with wide receivers, everything else. If you want to look online at the podcast, you can figure it out from there as far as wide receivers. What we do, wide receivers, defensive backs. Let's see here. I did defensive ends. So we did that too. And a lot of Alabama right there in the mix. But today, Alabama is not in my top 4 as of right now. Now, a lot of it's got to do with the fact that there aren't really very many stats for Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa. Now, the Alabama fans are going to be like, man, after that, it kind of slopes off there. So I normally do South Carolina and Clemson first, who they've had drafted. South Carolina has had no quarterbacks drafted since 2010. I think the best quarterback in South Carolina history is Conor Shaw, and he didn't get drafted. He did actually start a game for the Cleveland Browns at one point. I just don't think he was, I don't know what the vibe was with him. He wasn't big enough for the NFL, whatever. But he was definitely, in my opinion, the best quarterback for South Carolina. Do you agree with me, Mr. Savage College Football?
I would have to say that I do.
There you go. Look at him. He agrees with something. Now, after that, when we look at Clemson, since 2010, they've had 2 quarterbacks drafted. In 2014, it was Taj Boyd in the 6th round to the Jets. That didn't really work out well for him there. And then in 2017, you got Deshawn Watson, a 1st-round pick, 12th overall. He has been a Pro Bowler. Does have a losing record overall at Houston. Someone sent me that the other day. So there's that. Number 3 on the quarterback you set here. There's a tie between Auburn and Louisville. Auburn, since 2010, has had Cam Newton, who won an MVP, first overall pick, ton of starts in the league, was also the offensive rookie of the year. And then you had Jarrett Stidham, a 2019 first-round pick. So in my formula here, they both tie with the same amount of points as Louisville. Louisville, ladies and gentlemen. Louisville with Lamar Jackson, 2018 first-round pick. He has also an MVP player. And you also have Teddy Bridgewater, who was drafted in the 1st round in 2014. So you got 2 first-round picks. One of them won an MVP. What are you laughing at, sir?
The name Teddy Bridgewater just doesn't bode well with me at the moment.
He was drafted in the 1st round, and he won. And Lamar Jackson won an MVP. So I mean, they're
No,
right
I'm
there.
not disagreeing with you. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm saying.
Sure.
It's just he's been the quarterback for my NFL team, so
Yeah,
it
well-
wasn't really been the best.
Well, there you go. Number 2 on the list, ladies and gentlemen, is Florida State. Wait, what? People are forgetting Florida State. Yes, Florida State in 2011. Christian Ponder was a first-round pick. E.J. Manuel was a first-round pick. And Jameis Winston, a first-round pick. That is good enough to get you up to number 2 in the rankings. We can argue back and forth about, I think it's just the math of it comes out. I mean, 3 first-round picks. Now, some people could say Auburn should be ranked above them simply because they are, you have Cam Newton as an MVP. But people can get mad at me for this, but it's for what they've done in the NFL. Cam Newton's a crybaby. I mean, just the way he acted in the Super Bowl, not going after that fumble, that's one thing that just burned me really bad. And then the way he acted in the post-game press conference for the Super Bowl, where he acted like a large child. You know what? Take your loss like a man. You got beat. All right? And then go from there. Try to get better. Don't sit on the sidelines with a towel on your head. So there we go from there. G-Bama Boy says, so we're going by draft stock and not production. Well, I mean, Cam Newton won the MVP and the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Lamar Jackson won an MVP. I don't know, man. What else do you want? Finally, here we go. Number 1 obviously goes to Oklahoma. In 2013, they had Landry Jones drafted in the 4th round. They had 3 first-round overall number 1 picks. 2010, Sam Bradford. 2018, Baker Mayfield. 2019, Kyler Murray. And then, obviously, I don't have where Jalen Hurts was drafted. I didn't put that into the mix because I only went to 2019. So we'll go from there. All right, so 2 offensive rookies of the year in Sam Bradford and Kyler Murray. Now, we can talk about who's going to be there in the next couple of years. Alabama should break into the top 3 probably by the end of next season when you add to the mix Tua Tagovailoa if he gets to play in Miami. And they've basically given the keys to Jalen Hurts in New England or up in Philadelphia. So you've got that as well. And Cam Newton is going to probably fizzle out of the league. I don't think that he may sign somewhere, but he wasn't exactly impressive last year for the Patriots. Jarrett Stidham might get some more starts for them. We'll see about that. As far as the Florida State quarterbacks go, Jameis Winston may get the start for the Saints. Lamar Jackson's probably going to still put up numbers. Teddy Bridgewater, I think, is destined to be a backup. So with that, a lot of these programs in the next 2 or 3 years are probably going to drop down. I think Alabama is going to move up with those 2. And you can make an argument that Georgia may move up as well. And Clemson will probably be there in the next 2 or 3 seasons too, with Deshaun Watson going into the peak of his career and then going to, of course, Trevor Lawrence getting drafted this year. What did you think of my list, sir?
I thought it was pretty solid.
Was it close? Would you put Alabama above any one of these other teams here?
No, I would not.
Yeah.
Because I don't really know of any guys that are making big plays or making huge strides in the NFL from Alabama at quarterback.
Yeah. Well, but there is an opportunity there because Tagovailoa and Hurts doing their things. And then, of course, you've got Mac Jones, who's probably going to get drafted this year. They could have 3 guys that could be right there in the mix. Zach says UGA would be quarterback U if we could keep our 5 stars. That's funny. That's funny. So we'll we'll follow that. Justin Fields leaving the program. Kirby Smart taking Jake Fromm over Justin Fields, one of the biggest flops ever. And then he couldn't figure out that JT Daniels was any better than 4th string at the beginning of the season. What a mess that is. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, you can respond to that, and we'll have a lot more for you here on the Rundown. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I'm at Rob Sounds Good. We'll be right back. Yeah, and once again, you can. I'm just talking about with what they've done as far as getting into the pros and where they've been drafted. It's a mix of the two, guys. Let me highlight Brock's comment here because that needs to be shown. Zach Hicks, UGA would be QBU if they could develop talent. Oh, that's solid. I didn't say it there, Mr. Intern. You want to respond to Brock there, Mr. Intern? What do you think about Georgia's ability to, develop players? Is that out there or what?
All I'm gonna say is that the fact that Justin Fields left, it still haunts me to this day.
Well, it should.
Thank you for.
You want to know what else should haunt you? Is that Justin Fields says he left the program, and to get his waiver, he said that there were racist comments made towards him, but Justin Fields didn't take his sister with him who plays on the softball team. So, yeah, they're all racist down there, but sis, you stay here. Maybe that says more about Justin Fields than anything else.
Probably.
There you go with that.
Download the DraftKings app and use code SPORTS to get a free shot at millions of dollars up for grabs this week with your first deposit.
Do you guys want me to do I'm going to do linebackers, so quarterback talent is yet to be determined. Funny stuff there.
Log on to foxsportsradio1400.com/survey.
Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks so much for joining us today. Shout out to the folks watching online, including the quote of the day, Brock saying UGA would be quarterback U if UGA could develop talent. That's solid. Kirby Smart doesn't really have a history of developing quarterbacks. If you want that, whatever. RMF Todd says UGA is kicker U. They're just ripping on Georgia over here in the chat room. If you're like one of those people, that is on the I hate the Georgia Bulldogs train, the chat room is pretty much the ship for that right now. Go over there and check that out. It's plenty of folks over there. Noted Georgia apologist, Mr. Savage College Football joins us in studio today. Does it bother you that people think that Kirby Smart looks like Mr. Potato Head with his visor on? No?
No comment.
No comment. Okay. Well, you don't want to contribute to the show? We'll just turn your microphone off.
No.
Picking at you. But no, it's when you really stop and think about it, though, Georgia should get into the mix there if JT Daniels can do his thing. Do we give Georgia credit for Justin Fields, or is he an Ohio State guy now? I'm troubled by that. Do we give Jalen Hurts to Alabama, or do we give him to Oklahoma? These are things because he started his career at Alabama. I would
give him to Alabama because he played 3 seasons.
Right, but but Justin Fields, he goes to Ohio State, right? Because I got to keep this for the rankings later on.
Well, wasn't he at Georgia for 2 seasons and then Ohio State for 2 seasons?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So do you give him credit? I mean, I think he was at Georgia for 2 years or maybe 1 year. I got to figure that out. I'll look that up. But then goes to Ohio State. So who gets to claim him? Zach online says he goes to Ohio State. So maybe that won't help Georgia because the only hope they've got is JT Daniels right now if they want to try to break into the mix up here.
They had Aaron Murray get drafted.
Not helping, sir. Not helping.
Jake Fromm took them to a national title.
Beth, another noted Georgia apologist online, says that Justin Fields goes to Ohio State. There you go with that.
I probably would give him to
So
Ohio
I tell you what, we'll just stamp this out right now. There you go. I just hit the stamp button. We're going to send Justin Fields goes to Ohio State. They get credit for him. Jalen Hurts, sorry, Oklahoma. He goes to Alabama. There, that's how that works. They're talking about Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford was drafted before 2010. So I believe so. So anyway, that's not going to help them in their rankings. By the way, Clemson, South Carolina baseball canceled today. Brock says he should go to the school where he spent the most time at. Yeah, that's why we're sending Hurts to Alabama. We agree on that right there. Right, buddy?
Yes.
Right, so we're good. We're good on that. All right. So if you want to respond to that, teams that were just right there in the mix, you've got that scored high on this. That there was like a big tie there towards the end with Baylor, NC State, Texas Tech. A lot of it because of Patrick Mahomes, and Mizzou with Drew Lock and those guys. In addition to Oklahoma State with Mason Rudolph. So there's been some good stuff out there. You know, I'm waiting for South Carolina to get that one big quarterback.
You know who there's a school that you haven't mentioned that's produced a decent number of quarterbacks that are
Would it be Southern Cal?
No.
All right, who am I missing?
NC State.
I just said NC State. You weren't paying attention.
Oh.
Pay attention to the show, sir.
Apologies.
That's how it works.
I'm so now I'm embarrassed.
Oh, we're gonna pull him up in the podcast. We're gonna make fun of you. You should pay attention during the show. I'm gonna send this to your teacher and just be like, he's learning. You just gotta learn to pay attention to the show. Anyway, Mr. Savage College Football joins us in studio on Fridays. He is, of course, online on Instagram with the best college football news at your fingertips right there from everywhere all over the planet. At what's your Instagram handle, buddy?
My Instagram handle is Savage College FB.
Savage College FB. Go and follow him there, and learn about the game of Hut Hut because you got all kinds of great info over there.
No, I love how I love the word that you use, the game of Hut Hut.
Yeah, the game of Hut Hut. What's wrong with that?
No, I didn't say there was anything wrong with that. I just found it interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's they say Hut Hut during the game, don't they?
They do.
There you go. I just called it the game of Hut Hut. I don't know. Maybe I should get that on a T-shirt. Learn the game of Hut Hut.
I would buy it.
You should get that for yourself. Learn the game of Hut Hut, and then follow at Savage College FB. There you go. I'm doing marketing for your Instagram page. It's not really helping me though.
I like that idea.
All right. Some comments. Burrow had one good year and one bad year. Watson was better and still better. It's not close. They're talking about the stuff with Joe Burrow and Deshawn Watson. I'm taking Deshawn Watson. Joe Burrow hasn't quite done enough. And remember, and this makes LSU fans angry, but he couldn't get off the bench at Ohio State. Yes, I know he was injured, but he had to move to get playing time. So there's that. Quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this week's show. You're listening to The Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400.
Warmer weather is just around the corner, and soon your customers will be venturing out more. Connect with them while they're on the go by putting the power of
Look, Joe Burrow had an absolutely great year at LSU, but let's take this into perspective too. It's about consistency. Over time, Watson was better. Joe Burrow had one great year, and it was one of the greatest years ever. But remember, he couldn't get off the bench at Ohio State. Who's the quarterback that was for the Redskins that helped me out there, Savage College Football? Who was the guy that played for the Redskins and they cut him? Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, he couldn't beat out Dwayne Haskins at Ohio State. Just saying. Couldn't beat out Dwayne Haskins. And Haskins is terrible. LSU fans get upset when you tell them that. He had to come to LSU to play. Shows you how quarterback starved LSU is. They got Haskins backup and won a national title with him. I'm in a couple of LSU Facebook groups. They get mad when they're like, Burrow is the greatest thing ever. Burrow is the greatest thing ever. Why does Kirby Smart wear a women's golf visor? That's a great line. Why does Kirby Smart wear a women's golf visor? Okay. Jerome says he's trying to be a government cheese Spurrier. That's not really fair because Spurrier could develop quarterbacks and Smart can't. So there's that too. Tom Brady says it's a terrible point. Well, it's a factual point. He couldn't beat out Dwayne Haskins at Ohio State. They decided to go with Dwayne Haskins instead of Joe Burrow, and Burrow said, I'm out. That's what happened. So there's that. He didn't go the route of Mac Jones and wait his turn like he did at Alabama. He's like, no, I got to go to LSU now. Georgia fans are going to be upset with him. Fuck. Blow people's eardrums out.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Sorry about that.
Have Rob treats his intern.
I didn't know. No, I did it on purpose. All right, here we go. Final segment of the rundown this afternoon here on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. What will I be watching this weekend on the sports television? Because, that's kind of the only way we can do sports now. Generally, I would be at 2 of the 3 baseball games for South Carolina and Clemson because I like to follow baseball. And this is the biggest baseball series of the season in my mind for the folks around the Palmetto State. But since it's probably going to rain buckets tomorrow up in Greenville, I might go down on Sunday depending on if I get enough stuff done around the house. But I will be watching or listening to the games this coming weekend. So baseball is going to take up a lot. Also, we've got basketball. Clemson, of course, I got to look at who they're playing on their schedule there. Clemson, I think, plays tomorrow as we'll pull that up for you. And then South Carolina, of course, they're doing their thing. So we'll see how that works out for them. 803-978-1832. I forgot to take phone calls today. If you want to respond to the quarterback use system that I put up here, have at it. We'll take calls on that today as well. But I will be watching the Clemson basketball team. They play welcome in Miami tomorrow at 2:00. Miami has won. I think they're not a very good basketball team right now. They just got thumped by Florida State. So there's that. South Carolina, on the other hand, they're trying to break that losing streak as they will play at Georgia tomorrow at 1:00. They haven't one note on that South Carolina basketball team. If they lose this game, that'll be their 7th loss in a row. That has not happened since the Darren Horn era. That has not happened. After that, they will play Arkansas, who looks like they may be one of the better teams in the SEC on Tuesday. So here's the thing with that. If you look at it from this perspective, South Carolina may not win another game. They'll play in the SEC tournament, but they're going to play in the SEC tournament as a 5-win team. That is not very good. So Frank Martin's teams always seem to bounce back when it comes to late in the season. If they don't, that's not gonna go over well. I think they just want to hit the reset button. Are you following Gamecock basketball, sir?
When it comes to college basketball,
you're not really into the college basketball.
No,
that's fine.
That's not what you didn't even let me finish.
I just look at your face like, oh my goodness, he asked me a basketball question.
I have not been one to follow Gamecock basketball. The only
Yep.
basketball team I follow on a regular basis that's college is Georgia, and
Okay, well they play Georgia tomorrow. What do you think about the matchup tomorrow?
I would like to say that Georgia will win, but no matter how each team does, for some reason for the past couple seasons, South Carolina always ends up winning, and I haven't understood that. So I'm just gonna expect that Georgia does not live up to my expectations, and that South Carolina somehow gets a win.
Well, we'll see. That should be interesting. We'll have to. We'll be following that over the weekend, and we should. Next week is like the last full week of basketball as we get set up for tournament play. So yeah, that's going to be interesting too. I know Clemson's got Miami, Syracuse, and Pitt. South Carolina's got 2 games left. So we'll see how that works out. It's going to be interesting for the rest of the college basketball season. So with that, lots of teams are getting into spring practice. And, there's talk. We talked about this earlier this week where ADs are talking about a couple of different ADs have said, hey, we're planning on being 100% for college football this year as far as fans. Seems like the COVID phase may be trying to move on a little bit. That's some good news there. And that's going to help out the student athletes. I did see one story where a pitcher from Princeton is upset because the Ivy League, he said, they really didn't have any interest in trying to play this year. So all of the Ivy League teams, they're not getting a chance to play. That's kind of sad. You would hope that they would try to do that. I mean, that's just from his perspective, but still tough either way. Don't forget, Lawton Swan from Clemson Sports Talk is next. He is the czar of Clemson Sports. You can follow him on Twitter. He's at ClemsonSportsTalk.com. That's the easiest way to get him is as at Clemson Sports on Twitter. Go ahead and check him out as we roll along from there. Lots of trades that are going up and down. We're going to see the whole thing with Deshawn Watson telling the Texans, yeah, I'm not coming to play there. I don't know where he's going to end up. That should be interesting too. We'll be following along with that. Tua Tagovailoa said on Mac Jones, he's a more mobile Tom Brady. That's what Tua Tagovailoa said. That's a great clip from Tua Tagovailoa. Mac Jones is a more mobile Tom Brady. Wow, what a mess. Anyway, I don't even know where to go from that. That's kind of funny. Ryan Fitzpatrick reportedly wants to be a starting quarterback somewhere. He's probably not going to get to do that with the Dolphins. We'll see where he ends up. So I think there's going to be some trades and stuff popped over the weekend. I really do. The Texans released running back Duke Johnson. That's one of their running backs. We're going to see who the Texans are going to be. That's going to be an interesting set there. One NFL insider on ESPN Get Up says that 2 teams are supposedly in the mix that could get the services of Deshaun Watson: the Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers. That's what we're hearing today. The other day it was the Jets. I mean, he may end up playing for the Saints at this point. No one knows. I mean, he hasn't really put out anything. So where to go from there, I have no clue. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 as we wrap up the show today. Appreciate you guys joining us throughout the week. Next week, I'm going to do Linebacker U. We're going to recap the college baseball series from this weekend. It's got a lot of stuff we're going to looking forward to as far as next week. And, man, we're getting closer and closer to, like, the Masters and all of that's coming up, man. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun as we get moving here in our sports year. 803-978-1832. As I said, Lawton Swan from Clemson Sports Talk is up next. It's absolutely the best show for Clemson Sports Talk ever.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
Lawton joins us here in just a little bit. He'll have some more, I'm sure, information from Clemson spring practice as they're getting underway, and what other good information he has on the Clemson baseball team, Clemson basketball as well. They play tomorrow at 2:00. So if they want to improve their seeding, they need to pick up a win over Miami tomorrow. A loss could send them down the toilet as far as seeding goes. I think they make the tournament either way. But if you want to be a really good seed, that's the best way to go. Got to win those games tomorrow. All right, what can folks find on your Instagram page this week, buddy? What have you put up there that's good?
So one of the things that I had put up just actually about 2 hours ago, Michigan State has released an all-new helmet.
So you got the new helmet for Michigan State. That's good.
Yes, I do. Baylor defensive end Braylon Taylor has announced he'll be entering the transfer portal.
Okay.
He's only played one season, but he's 6'7", and so he has a lot of potential. He did not
just
play
because he's 6'7".
He didn't play in 2020 due to the fact that he was forced to medically retire, and then about a month ago, he was deemed medically cleared to play again.
What a mess.
Luke McCaffrey from Nebraska will be transferring to Louisville.
Good stuff there. All right, follow him on Instagram at Savage College Football, at Savage College FB. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us on The Rundown, man. We appreciate it. We'll be back at it on Monday.